Right then. So, hi everyone. Good afternoon. So welcome to the first ever joint webinar Mitigant at adesso Netherlands. And today we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic: challenges and best practices for securing Azure cloud infrastructure. And yeah, the agenda for today is that we have 6 topics in general. Specifically, the first one is that the importance of securing your cloud. Specifically, why is it so important for you to ensure that your cloud is always going to be secure? And the second topic is about some recent security incidents examples that are happening to Azure infrastructure. And the third one is that like what are the impacts of these security incidents for the Azure customers? The 4 topics we're going to be talking about are some of the common Azure misconfigurations that are happening in the Azure infrastructures. And the next one is that how we can then actually avoid these common Azure misconfigurations so that we can achieve best practices and security for your cloud infrastructure. And then the last one is that how adesso Netherlands and Mitigant can help you to achieve security and compliance for your Azure infrastructure. And speakers for today. So my name is Iksan. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Mitigant, a cybersecurity startup and also cloud security solutions based in Potsdam, Germany. So I previously did as well my PhD in cloud security and cybersecurity at Hasselblad Institute in Potsdam, Germany. Also during my time as well, like I published more than 20 scientific articles together with my colleagues beforehand. And yeah, and the speaker as well as Alex, and I just hand over to him for the next part.
Thanks, Isan. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandru Vleju, and I'm an Azure Cloud Engineer at adesso Netherlands. I have more than 10 years in the IT field, mostly within the infrastructure, networking, and security. And in the past couple of years, I focused more on Azure environment. For those who don't know, adesso Netherlands is a part of the international adesso group, which is one of the largest German IT service providers, which focus on providing optimal IT solutions to support companies in their specific challenges. So let's start to try to say something about the importance of the cloud security. With the adoption of cloud services that has been an explosive growth in the recent years, companies of all sizes, from small businesses to large enterprises, are increasingly relying on cloud solutions to drive their operations, to boost productivity, and foster innovation. There is quite a large number of companies that are using cloud services in some ways, which is like 94%. This means they can use storage or email services that are related to the cloud. So to try to have an introduction of our topic about Azure security, I just want to present some recent incidents that were related to Azure that happened in the past years. The first one is an incident that involved an exposed server on Microsoft Azure government cloud, which was leaking internal US military emails to the public internet for two weeks. This server was part of an internal mailbox system that stored approximately 3 terabytes of military emails, many of which pertained to the US Special Operations Command. The server actually was exposed due to a misconfiguration that left it without a password, which is kind of funny. We could think that this cannot happen in these days. But that misconfiguration allowed anyone on the internet who knew its IP address to access the sensitive data inside using just a web browser. Misconfiguration like this can occur due to human error or lack of proper security protocols. It's crucial for organizations, especially those handling sensitive data, to regularly audit and monitor their system to ensure that security configurations are correctly set. This includes ensuring that servers are password protected and that access is restricted to unauthorized individual only. So let's see another example about an incident that was created by a cybercrime group called Lapsus, which announced that they have targeted Microsoft and Okta companies. These particularly breaches at Microsoft and Okta were due to compromised accounts. In Microsoft's case, the attackers gained limited access through a compromised account, which allowed them to access the leaked the sources code of certain Microsoft products. In Okta's case, the attackers attempt to compromise the account of a customer support engineer at a third-party service provider. They had access to the support engineer's device for about a week, which allowed them to gain access to Okta's customer accounts. These incidents highlight the importance of security user accounts and implementing strong authentication measures. Because attackers often target user accounts because they can provide an easy way into an organization system. So it's very important to use unique password and enable multi-factor authentication whenever possible. Let's see another case where 57,000 student records were exposed due to a Microsoft Azure misconfiguration. The data belonged to MyEasyDocs, which is an online document verification platform specialized in verifying things like banking, colleges, and law-related documents. The student information was hosted in Microsoft Azure and did not require sufficient authentication to access it, leaving the data exposed. Anyone with basic knowledge about unsecured database could access those 30 gigabytes of student information, which includes full names, phone numbers, email addresses, graduation dates, and national IDs. Such breaches are often due to lack of awareness and education about how to prevent these mistakes, or an assumption that it doesn't matter actually, or what it could happen to an organization. And here we are talking mostly about small organizations that are not taking this security aspect into consideration. So the impact of security incident, of course, can be huge. Imagine if a malicious actor were to gain access to your company's Azure account. They could have complete access to your cloud resources, potentially enabling them to steal sensitive information, disrupt your operations, or cause considerable financial loss. This is not just a hypothetical scenario. It has happened, and it continues to be a significant threat. Personal data is incredibly valuable, and it's often a prime target for cyber criminals. In a cloud environment, a security misconfiguration or a software vulnerability could expose sensitive data to the public internet. We can speak here about data leaks, which can occur due to a variety of reasons, such as Azure misconfiguration, exposure of personal information, compromised account details, or unauthorized access. These incidents can lead to substantial data exposure, which can have a ripple effect of consequences. Of course, we can have the identity theft as a significant concern. A breach of personal data can result in impersonation, credit fraud, and misuse of sensitive information such as social security numbers or national IDs, or dates of birth. Dates of birth are often used as a verification measure by many systems, and if leaked, can provide an additional piece of the puzzle for identity thieves. Thirdly, we have financial losses, where downtime due to a security incident can lead to a significant loss of revenue. In sectors like gaming, unauthorized in-game purchases can result in substantial losses. Or any service disruption can also lead to financial losses, both directly and indirectly. Also, the harm of reputation that result from a security incident can be substantial. Trust erosion and customer attrition are significant concerns that in publicly trade company, a security incident can lead to a drop in a share price, for example. Lastly, there might be legal repercussions, compliance violations such as those related to HIPAA in the healthcare sector of the United States, or to GDPR in UA boundaries. This exposure of sensitive data can lead to legal actions and significant damage to a company's reputation. So let's try to understand what facilitates the bad actors to take advantage when dealing with security incidents. Firstly, misconfiguration is one of the most common causes of security incidents in Azure. Simple errors such as leaving a storage account public or not enabling encryption can expose data to create vulnerabilities. It's a sobering reminder of the importance of meticulous attention to detail in cloud configuration. Secondly, the lack of knowledge and resources can contribute to security incidents. Cloud environments are complex, and without a proper understanding of Azure security features and controls, it's easy to make mistakes. Similar, without sufficient personnel to manage and secure the cloud environment, vulnerabilities can go unnoticed and unaddressed. Next, insufficient incident response can also facilitate the security incident. When a security event happens, a delayed or improper response can allow the situation to escalate, leading to a full-blown breach. This emphasizes the need for well-defined and practiced incident response plan. Overlooking the principle of last privilege can also cause security incidents. This principle dictates that an user should have the bare minimum permission necessary to perform their job. If access controls are overly permissive, it open up more avenues for potential attacks. And finally, insufficient logging and monitor, it's a significant issue because without proper systems in place to detect and alert on unusual or unauthorized activities, breaches can go unnoticed until it's too late. This highlights the importance of a robust monitoring and alert system in the cloud environment. Misconfigurations are often a significant contributor to security incidents. Misconfigurations are essentially errors or oversights in the setup of the cloud environment. They occur when computing assets are not configured or managed correctly, leading to vulnerabilities that can be exploited by malicious actors. Cloud environments like Azure are incredible powerful and flexible, but with that power comes complexity. Given the many configurable options, settings, and controls in Azure, it's easy to make errors, forget steps, or simply not be aware of the best practices for every aspect of the environment. Moreover, in the rush to take advantages of the cloud's benefits, organizations may overlook the importance of security configurations or make decisions that prioritize speed and convenience over security. This oversight can lead to vulnerabilities, such as data being unprotected or services being accessible to unauthorized individuals. Now, let's discuss this in more details. For example, open networks ports in an Azure cloud environment are like unlocked doors to your digital assets. When ports are left open, they can allow unauthorized access, putting your data at risk. Now you may wonder how big of a risk are talking about. A joint study conducted by BitSight and Advisen found that 60% of organizations that experience a data breach had 10 or more open ports susceptible for unauthorized use. Furthermore, the study revealed a correlation between the number of open ports and the likelihood of experiencing a data breach. These examples highlight the importance of properly managing the security network ports in Azure environments. Open ports might seem like a mirrored detail, but as we can see, they can have significant implication for the security of your data. Closing or restricting access to ports in Azure typically involves working with Azure Network Security Groups, NSGs, and Azure Firewalls. But not only, also virtual machines and other resources in Azure also have their own network interfaces and settings that can be configured to limit port access. For example, you can manage the network settings of a virtual machine to restrict inbound and outbound traffic, or you can configure a storage account to deny access from all networks by default. Just a few examples. Access controls are the gatekeepers of your Azure environments. They define who has permission to access what within your cloud environment, including data, resources, and services. When these controls are weak or poorly implemented, they might grant unnecessary or excessive permission to user, or worse, to attackers. So what this means in practical terms, let's consider a scenario where a user is giving more permission that they need for their roles. This is often referred to as excessive privileges. With these privileges, the user could unintentionally or intentionally access sensitive data, alter configurations, or perform actions that could lead to data leaks or breaches. Similarly, if an attacker were to gain access to a user account with weak access controls, they could potentially manipulate data, disrupt services, or carry out other malicious activities, all under the guise of a legitimate user. In the worst case scenario, weak access control could lead to unauthorized data access for manipulation, resulting in data leaks or breaches. Well, the message is clear here. Well-implemented access controls are not optional in today's cloud environments. They are essential. In Azure, this means making full use of features such as Azure Active Directory or identity and access management, like role-based access controls for fine-grained permission management, or Azure policies to enforce organizational rules at scale. Let's continue with the logging and monitoring, which are like the security cameras, if you want, of your Azure environment. They provide valuable visibility into activities within the cloud, recording who is doing what, when, and how. This information is crucial for detecting anomalies, identifying potential attacks, and investigating incidents after they occur. However, if logging and monitoring are not set up correctly, or if they are not comprehensive enough, they can miss suspicious activities. This can be compared to having blind spots in your surveillance system. Imagine a scenario where an authorized user is accessing sensitive data. With robust logging and monitoring, you could quickly spot this unusual activity, investigate, and report accordingly. However, if insufficient logging and monitoring are in place, this activity could go unnoticed, allowing the user to continue their unauthorized access, potentially leading to a data breach or system compromise. Therefore, it's essential to take full advantages of Azure logging and monitoring capabilities. This includes services like Azure Monitor, which collects, analyzes, and acts on the telemetry data from your cloud and also on-premises environments. The segregation of duties, also known as the principle of last privilege, is a critical control that helps to prevent fraud, errors, and abuse of privileges. It works by dividing responsibilities and access rights among different people or teams to minimize the chance of a single person having the power to carry out malicious activities without detection. Let's imagine a scenario where one individual has the authority to create a user account, assign privileges, and audit usage. This concentration of power could potentially allow the individual to create an account with excessive permission and conduct unauthorized activities without being noticed. The lack of segregation creates what we call a single point of failure. In the individual's account, when they decide to act malicious, for example, this could mean a significant impact on your system security. To mitigate this risk, it's crucial to enforce the segregation of duties in your Azure environment. This can be achieved through careful role assignment using Azure Active Directory and role-based access control to ensure that individuals only have the permissions they need to perform their jobs and nothing more. Of course, this maybe seems to be a little bit hard to implement in small organizations, but there is always a way to implement it. When we talk about data storage, we're referring to how and where data is kept when it's not in use. This could be data at rest in a database, a file in a storage account, or a backup in a recovery vault. Secure data storage means encryption and make use of the unauthorized access and control. Data transmission, on the other hand, is about how data moves between locations, systems, and users. This could be data in transit from a user's device to an Azure service, or between Azure services, or maybe between Azure and on-premises environments. Misconfigurations or lax practices can lead to data being stored or transmitted insecurely. For instance, failing to enable encryption for a database or transmitting data over an unsecure connection could expose the data to unauthorized access or interception. To mitigate this risk, Azure provides a host of security features and best practices. This includes Azure Storage Service Encryption for data at rest, or Azure SSL TLS for data in transit. We can mention also here the Azure Key Vault that is used for managing the cryptographic keys and secrets. So in this slide, we are going to discuss some best practices for avoiding common misconfigurations in Azure. Of course, they are just examples to cover just a little part of the big picture. But I think they are important, and every organization should implement them. So practice the principle of less privilege. This is about ensuring that individuals have only the permission they need to perform their jobs and nothing more. By limiting access rights, you can minimize the potential damage if an account is compromised. Regularly update and patch systems. Keeping systems up to date is crucial for protecting against known vulnerabilities. Azure regularly release updates and patches that address security issues, and applying this promptly can prevent attackers from exploiting these vulnerabilities. Enabling multi-factor authentication, which provides an added layer of security by requiring users to provide at least 2 forms of identification before they can access their accounts. This makes it much more difficult for an attacker to gain access even if they have the user's passwords. It's incredible to see how many organizations have not implemented yet this form of protection, but I hope this will change soon. Set up adequate logging and monitoring. Regularly monitoring systems for unusual activity is crucial for detecting potential security incidents. Azure provides robust logging and monitoring tools that you can use to keep an eye on your environment. Use of built-in Azure security tools and features. Azure comes with a variety of built-in security tools and features like Azure Security Center, Azure Monitor, and Azure Policy. Leveraging this can help you better protect your environment. Continuous learning and training. Security is a constantly evolving field, and it's essential to keep your team up to date with the latest knowledge and best practices. Regular trainings can help your team stay ahead of emerging threats and understand how to use Azure security feature effectively. Regular audits and reviews. Audits are not just for banks. Consistently checking system for potential vulnerabilities can help you catch and fix security issues before they can be exploited. Regular audits should be a key part of your security strategy. Let's continue with some more. Encrypt sensitive data at rest and in transit. Keeping data secure is important both when it's stored and when it's being transmitted. Azure provides built-in encryption services like Azure Storage Service Encryption, as I mentioned before, or Azure SSL TLS for data in transit. Of course, we have here another forms of protections like VPN, the Azure VPN possibilities. So there are many. Use Azure Policy for compliance monitoring. Azure Policy is a service that helps you manage and enforce your organizational standards and assets compliance at scale. With this, you can track compliance and various regulations and ensure that your Azure environment meets the policies of the organization and the standards that are needed. Use Azure Blueprints for secure environment setup. Azure Blueprints allow you to orchestrate the deployment of various resource templates and other artifacts such as role assignment, policy assignments, and Azure Resource Manager templates. This enables you to set up secure and compliant environments from the start, reducing the risk of misconfiguration. Employ Azure Key Vault for secure key management. Azure Key Vault is a service for securely storing and accessing secrets. It helps you manage cryptographic keys and secrets like database connections, strings, to reduce the risk of unauthorized access or exposure. Also, to utilize the Azure Network Security Groups and firewalls, which can help you to establish a robust perimeter security strategy and filter network traffic to and from your Azure resources in your Azure virtual network. Regular backup and recovery planning, ensuring you have a robust backup and recovery plan. It's in place. It's vital. Regular backups coupled with a clear recovery plan ensure that you have the ability to restore operations in case of an incident, be it a secure breach, data loss, or maybe a system failure. Of course, the list can continue. As someone smarter than me once said, security is a journey, not a destination. So continuous learning, reviewing, and adapting your strategies are crucial for managing the cloud resources. Hope I haven't bored you with these security topics. It's funny that security is boring to many companies until something bad is happening to them, when suddenly they are taking measures to improve the security of their systems and start to be more and more preoccupied about it. But I hope this is not the case for you, and that you take the security aspects very, very seriously. So I will hand over to Ishan. So thank you again for listening.
Thank you so much, Alex. Really interesting as well. Inputs for like the latest information of like what are the common misconfigurations happening and how to we can actually improve it as well, like to make sure that our cloud infrastructure is to be secure. And yeah, so I hope you can see the next slide. Is it already on the next slide? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Oh, no. Yes. Yeah. So in here, basically, like, yeah. So in here, basically, how adesso Netherlands and Mitigant can help you to achieve security and compliance for Azure infrastructure. Basically, here that we offer three basically services in here. The first one is the security assessments, basically that adesso Netherlands can help you as well to analyze your cloud security posture to detect if there's any security vulnerabilities that are, for example, that are mentioned just now by Alex, basically, because then basically from the security vulnerabilities that this could lead into the security incidents if the attacker, for example, are able to find out these problems and then these vulnerabilities and then they can exploit it, that this could lead to security incidents, and obviously you don't want that. So therefore, like adesso Netherlands can help you with the security assessment and with this complete reporting that are powered by Mitigant. And the second one is the consultation as well, as that like you can get the consultation for best practice implementations of organizational or maybe Office 365, something like that. Also, like if you are having a troubles of like basically how to remediate to detect the security vulnerabilities from before, then you can also ask Addison Netherlands as well for the consultation. And obviously as well, one of the most thing as well is cost saving, where in the end is that like when you're running Azure infrastructure, it always runs on money basically, and you would like to make sure that the unnecessary resources or resources that can be optimized are basically can be detected, and also then, for example, that can be reduced the number of consumption, so therefore you can save money in the long run. And finally, the last offering as well is that like from Mitigant as well. So in here, Mitigant offers Mitigant cloud security assessments, basically where it can allow for continuous security and compliance as a SaaS solutions. Basically, you just have to connect from your cloud infrastructure, Azure infrastructure, or Amazon Web Services, basically that you can actually connect it to Mitigant, and then we're going to be able to detect and help you to remediate as well as security vulnerabilities in the cloud, as well as that if you need to achieve the security compliances as well, for example, maybe with the CIS benchmark, ISO 27000, or maybe SOC 2, you can do it automatically, easily in a single user interface. And for example, like in here, we're just going to be showing like an anonymized use case, basically. Last year that there was a medium-sized enterprise that are using Azure infrastructure, and unfortunately they recently experienced security incidents in the Azure infrastructure, which luckily it was discovered early, so the impact was not that big. obviously as well. But however, it's still security incidents, and they were trying to make sure, okay, how do they can prevent this kind of security incidents in the future, right? And obviously they already have a DevOps team as well that are able to kind of like detect this kind of issues whatsoever. But unfortunately, the Azure infrastructure is so big basically in general that like for their infrastructure, and they were having a limited resources and knowledge as well to kind of like figure out how to do full security assessments, making sure that like all the security vulnerabilities in their Azure infrastructure are detected easily. And they, simply put, basically they do not have the time and money and resources to be able to do so. So therefore, like the company then actually requested help from adesso Netherlands to help them to for consultation in terms of security and best practices assessments, basically. So they would like to make sure that first of all is that like obviously to detect any remaining security vulnerabilities in their Azure infrastructure, as well as that like how they can also improve their organizational structure as well in terms of Azure, so that they can also, for example, like improve their cost saving, also at the same time as well improve as well the access governance and so on, basically. Next, please. Yeah. And yeah, so basically then how adesso Netherlands and Mitigant solve the challenges from this company. So first of all, adesso Netherlands actually conducted an automated security assessment on the company Azure infrastructure. And basically what happened is that like using Mitigant Cloud Security Assessment as a SaaS solutions, basically adesso Netherlands were able to connect we're able to kind of like detect as well the security vulnerabilities in the company's Azure infrastructure with very easy onboarding as well. And then from there, then it will actually generate as well the necessary information about like the security vulnerabilities as well, and also like the steps, the remediation steps as well on how to fix it, obviously for that as well. And all of these are automated, and it's the report also is automatically generated as well. And based on this report as well, then adesso Netherlands can continue consulting on how the companies to improve their security posture and best practice for of Azure infrastructure. And from there as well, that we have seen as well that like the company as well are actually improving their cloud security much better as well, and they were able to kind of also ensuring that like these security incidents are not happening in the near future as well. So far until now, the company has not have any latest security incidents, and hopefully that this will continue as well, that their cloud infrastructure is going to be secure, continuously secure and compliant. And yeah, so in here, just would like to introduce as well of like what I just mentioned as well. Mitigant Cloud Security Assessment is now available as well to secure Azure infrastructure. It is already available also in Amazon Web Services. And what you can do is that we can do two things: detecting, which means that you can automatically scan cloud infrastructure for security vulnerabilities in just one click, meaning that like 24/7, you will always gonna the Mitigant Cloud Security Assessment will do a security assessment on your cloud, and then you'll be able to see what is the latest security posture of your cloud. From there as well, obviously, you can also continuously resolve detected security issues to achieve cloud security and compliance as well. So, for example, if you need to be, as I said mentioned before, if you need to be compliant with for example, ISO 27001, for example, which are very famous one, or SOC 2, or even like the best practices such as CIS 1.4, for example, for Azure, it's also can be done easily in one platform. And obviously the onboarding in just 15 minutes for that. And yeah, so in here, as I mentioned, that you can actually run automated and on-demand cloud security assessments where all the rules are actually based on the cloud security best practice and standards available on the market. And these rule engines as well are basically like always gonna be keep updated as well, obviously with the development of the cloud infrastructure, because cloud Azure, for example, or Amazon Web Services are always gonna be evolving all the time. And then there are gonna be more services, more functionalities as well, and obviously the rules engines as well are going to be updated based on that as well, so that like you can be sure that you will get the latest security protection for your Azure infrastructure. And then obviously you can also, every time that you run the assessment, be it an automated maybe once a day or twice a day, or even on demand assessment, you will always get a automated generated report basically, where it will also continue as well, contents as well, the troubleshooting guides to basically help you to basically remediate these findings via web portal or CLI comments. And obviously for sure as well that you can actually do it by yourself, like, oh, you know what, I found this problem, and you can research for it as well. But of course it's gonna take time, and Mitigant helps you to save time and cost, so that you don't have to worry about searching of all of these problems, especially when it comes to Azure infrastructure. Azure, when it comes to documentation, is sometimes it's always a challenge. Basically, it's sometimes a very outdated as well. So therefore, that we always have to make sure that like all of this information on how you're fixing it, also not also including as well the rules as well, are gonna be keep updated all the time. And yeah, as I mentioned as well, if you needed to be compliant with cloud security best practice and standard on the market, you can easily monitor it. So every time that you run a cloud security assessment, either on demand or automated assessment, the compliance will actually will follow on the latest security assessment basically, and therefore that you can always see, oh, you know what, for maybe that for this certain compliances, for example the CIS or maybe SOC 2 whatsoever, you can always gonna be secured easily with that. And then when you're actually monitoring with that, it's not only just one, but you all actually monitor multiple at the same time, which is already great basically. So you don't, so obviously you can obviously just subscribe to one, obviously what you want to monitor, because maybe it's what your industry or your company needs. But also at the same time as well as that, like if you can also compare yourself from one standard to another standard or best practices, it also will be helpful as well to give you like the idea of like how secure is your cloud infrastructure is as well. And yeah, so it's always gonna be like a challenge as well, like for because that usually when it comes to the compliance monitoring and assessment as well, that previously obviously then it was a very manual search as well, because you have to translate from certain security requirements back into like you and how it applies to your cloud infrastructure. Mitigant already takes care of it, so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, next one. And yeah, so in the end, what Mitigant and Adesso Netherlands can provide you is the security and compliance for cloud infrastructure in just one platform, not only from Mitigant as well, but Adesso as well. You can easily proactively detect and remedy security vulnerabilities in cloud resources. You can obviously achieve monitor compliances, and in the end as well that you are able to manage available cloud resources and changes happening in your cloud infrastructure. So those are just the tip of the iceberg of what how Adesso and Netherlands and Mitigant can offer for your Azure cloud infrastructure. So yeah, so start building your security and compliance for your Azure cloud today with Mitigant Adesso Netherlands. If you have any questions, you can contact us, for me, Ihsan, and also Alex as well from Adesso Netherlands for more info of the offerings as well. So thank you very much, and I guess that will be the end of the webinars as well. And I think we can also stop the recording as well, Teresa. If you have any questions, feel